We are live on Instagram, baby, live. We live on Facebook, Dom?
Not yet.
We're live? What's going on, guys? Steve here. It is Throw It Out There Thursday, and my golly, it is a glorious Thursday. You know why? Because we're here for you. You guys ask the questions, we're going to answer it. We have so many different models in the shop. We're going to go over them and tell you everything that we're doing to them. But in order for us to go ahead and do that, we got to go over to Justin Smith.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. I gotta say, I don't even know how you do that crap right there. It's like, hey, Steve, talk. Okay, here we go. Da, 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 da. Mr. Howdy Doody. You do such a good job at that.
Thank you, Justin.
Anytime. As a matter of fact, why don't you come in and run this whole thing? The rest of this feed, let's just.
I don't like you one bit right now. But yeah, so I'm going to do it today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be running the show, okay? No need for you, Justin.
I'll get
go ahead and go over there.
Thank you.
All right.
Hip check.
Let's go out in the shop. Shall we?
So maybe you can show everybody all the stuff that we're working on today. We never really take the time to show everybody what is our daily.
We have not taken the time in a while, so if you guys want to come this way. We do have the Pro R in the shop, which we were just out testing, or as Mitchie was just out testing. Mitchie, what did you think of the Pro R? See how I did that?
He puts it right back on me.
Flipped it right back on.
Pretty good.
Now it's your turn, Mitch. Everybody else can do this. I'm just going to sit back in the front showroom and watch.
Well, it's actually funny because there is a question of anything new on the Pro Rs, and I will tell you, we are like this close to being done with testing and development of spring kits and valving. You should be able to expect spring kits probably here within like 2-3 weeks, I would say. The valving on them, that, like I said, we're almost done with that. We're going to have the link kit, everything else that we talked about in our previous video is going to be around the same time that we have our spring kit. So be on the lookout for the video of installation and then post it on the website.
So you guys, one thing to consider, and please remember, is that when we're doing the testing on this stuff and spring kits and internals, we're not going to send that instantly. Okay, we're going to test it a lot, we're going to verify it a lot, we're going to grab a couple more vehicles and test them stock and then go to our system again. So it takes a little while for us to do it so that there's no changes after we do it on your stuff. But a lot of other products are in development for this. We did talk a little bit about it, but we've got different sway bar rates coming, we've got a bunch of different sway bar bracketry coming, we've got all
radius rods,
sway bar links, radius rods. Radius rods for this are going to be badass. 7/8 uniball, 7/8 rod ends, machined ends with high clearance steps in them for the hubs and arm. Yes, Steve.
Justin, can you just reiterate who has the biggest rods on the market?
Shock Therapy does.
Yeah, baby.
That's a fact right there. That would mainly be, according to Steve's mom, Steve does.
100%.
That's right. But I just want you guys to remember that we really do this stuff as quick as we can, but we verify a lot over and over and over again. And sometimes that takes us a few more weeks, a few more months before it gets to you, right?
We've already been working on it for how long? I mean,
well, we've
just from the testing side of it.
Well, we had a development car the 2 weeks after it was announced.
Yeah.
And we've had our own for now over almost 2 months.
Yeah.
So we're almost done on a lot of this stuff. So be patient. Yeah. Anyway, Mitch, Steve. Please,
okay, shall we? Follow me. So we got almost every model of car in the shop today. We are working on, right over here, we got an X3. We are doing valving, springs, front limit straps, and I believe a front sway bar on this one. Getting the works. It is a Smart Shock car.
Good looking car too. With all
it is a very nice looking car. The guy's done a really good job with it. Nice cage, nice bumper, everything looks really good on it. Also too, we got Polaris in the house, Turbo S, Dynamics, getting the valving springs, front limit straps, getting the works as well.
What are some of the parts on the ground that are going back on this, Steve?
So we've got our limit strap kit, which you can find on www.shocktherapyusa.com.
Shameless plug. Good job.
You're welcome. Ta-ting. But we got our front limit straps back on the site. 2.5. Go order them. $269.95. Justin, I don't like doing this.
Yeah, you do. You're good at it. Go for it. I just got to step in.
Josh just keeps winking at me, so it makes me feel better.
From the background, I'm just going to say, you guys remember, this is Throw It Out There. So give us some questions.
Yeah, you guys have any questions?
On the vehicles we're talking about would be great. Mitch.
Not on the vehicles that we're talking about per se, but Barrett Doe wants to know, I want to beef up my front end on my X3, TMW or Geyser bulletproof front end.
You're Steve. You can't go wrong either way.
I say I think it just depends on what logo you want on it. Do you want a G or do you want what they say Lone Star?
TMW.
Or do you want a TMW? Do you want a G? I think they are both great. I think we run it on both of our cars. I know Ernie has TMW on his. I know you have guys on yours.
Yep.
I think either way you go, you're going to be dialed.
Awesome either way.
Yeah.
What else you got, Mitch? Dom? Oh, what do you got, Dom?
Oh,
Mike.
Talon BSD kit. When?
You know what? Let's actually discuss that because that was a question that was on one of the videos that I forgot to respond to. So if you are the same person on that, I apologize. Talon BSD. We don't have one right in front of us. We do over here. So let's go this way.
And would it be a pin kit on this, Justin, or would it be a full bump steer kit?
It is. It's a pin kit.
Be a pin kit?
Because the factory Talon is using a ball joint design instead of like a Can-Am where you've got a joint mounted between two upper and lower, double shear mounts. So on the Talon, it's going to be a pin kit. The reason that it's not out immediately is because the size of the stud. Speaking of studs,
Love a
Steven,
big stud.
the size of the stud in the Talon spindle is larger in diameter than any other vehicle, and that means that it requires a completely different pin kit from us with a larger shank on the bottom as well. Now, it just so happens that larger shank pin kit is the same dimension and design as the one that we're making for the Pro R, which also has larger hardware and larger pin assembly. So we're wrapping up all the pin kits on the Pro R, which then become the same pin kit for the Honda, so it's on its way. Give us, again, 2-3 weeks and that'll be out. Cool. Yep. Honda. Steve, what are we doing on the Honda?
We are doing a nice valving and spring combo, and then it's a brand new car, so we didn't do rebuilds. The Turbo S did get rebuilds, and so did this OG Maverick behind me. But we did valving and springs on it. The guy is very, very happy with the car. If you want to look in here, we got the dual rate spring kit, shock therapy, silent crossovers on it. Yeah, it's going to be good. He was very upset this morning when he brought it in, Justin, because he said the car does not ride that good. It is super stiff, and I agree with him right out of the box. They are super stiff.
Well, we've always said the same thing, and that is that the Honda is probably the stiffest riding UTV factory out of all of them. But once you play with them, they go somewhere that's awesome compared to where they start. Because it starts off so stiff, it's also the one that probably has the biggest change.
100%.
Before and after we get inside and do all that stuff. So all you Honda guys, there's an amazing level of ride quality in these things. If you haven't done it already, give us a call.
More to do. Yep.
What do you got behind you?
We have an OG Mav that was getting valving and springs as well.
These really wake up as well.
These wake up. I know this is kind of where it all started. Other than Ryan knows it, but this is kind of where it all started. When I started, this is what we were working on a lot of.
Actually, I had, how you get your reminders in your phone of what happened like a year ago or 6 years ago. I had a six-year reminder of all of the OG Mavericks that we were tuning at the same time that one day. You were there, Rich.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stock, just spring and valving, and then all owners of all vehicles got to swap around and decide.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that was like
awesome.
That was my first week.
6 years.
It'll be 5. Well, it'll be 5 years this year.
All right. So that long is pretty cool. So OG Mav, right on. What do you got behind you?
We've got another X3 if you want to come this way. Mitchie's got a question. What you got, Mitchie?
Ramp Rat wants to know, he bought chromoly radius rods for his Turbo S. When will Shock Therapy have high clearance radius rods for the Turbo S?
Yeah. I'll take this one because I'm the one that's always saying the wrong dates. Okay, they've been on our list of to-dos for years. I can't tell you when we're going to do it. It is something that we're going to do. We just haven't done it yet. We've got too many other things that we've kind of jumped in. So if you want them in the next couple of months, I'm sorry, you're going to have to buy another version from somebody else. Dom, Mike.
Mr. Jared Mangus is asking, when we do internals for an everyday person, do we tailor it to their riding style and terrain?
Absolutely. That is the goal of us doing everything on the inside of the shop, is to tailor it to their needs. And internal valving, what we get a lot of is guys are like, hey, dude, I don't need that because I'm not racing. Well, internal valving is not just for racers. Internal valving makes the car ride, your UTV ride, better for what you're doing, more plush in the small stuff, doesn't bottom out in the big stuff. We can tailor it if you're 30 mile an hour and slower because of mountains and trail riding. You don't need the types of setups that we do for 50 mile an hour and faster, right? So we can really make it exactly what you do, where you do, the best for you. A lot of times we tune UTVs and internal shock work for the wife or whoever's in the right seat or whoever's in the back seat. We'll tune it for that and not so much for the driver. It just depends on your needs, but the sky's the limit when we get inside the shock. When we do springs, that's a huge improvement. It's a huge improvement for accessories and weight that you've added to the vehicle, get your ride height and ride quality back. But man, when we get inside and do the internals, then that's just next level. And that's next level for everyone that just plays, everyday drivers and racers, all of it. Dom.
Marty Harrison, Steve, is asking, can you explain how crossover rings work, and can he buy a set from you?
Can I explain how they work?
Yes,
I mean, adding a crossover to your shock is what makes it a true dual rate spring kit. Of course, you can purchase them on the website. I don't know what car it's on, but we have it for every single model that there is out there. But how the crossover works is it cancels out your upper spring, bringing the lower one into play, making it that true dual rate with having a divider in between the two springs. That's how, in short, that's how it would work.
That's the simplest version, right? And everybody, not everybody, but we get that question a lot.
All the time.
We have a video, one of our feeds that we touched on this, how dual rate springs work, or search dual rate spring kits on our feeds. You're going to see a decent video with showing on a whiteboard how that works and how mathematically the spring system ramps up. But I'll add one more thing to that. This isn't the case on every single spring rate, but simply put, if you have a 200-pound spring on the top and a 200-pound spring on the bottom, okay, the combined spring rate is 100 pounds. You're feeling a 100-pound spring rate as you're driving down the road in small chop and chatter. As you compress the system, and divider comes up the shock, it hits that crossover ring, which stops the divider, and now the upper spring does not work. Now you're only working on the lower spring. Well, now you're on a 200-pound spring, so you went from 100 pounds combined to 200 pounds right away as soon as you hit the crossover. That's how dual rate works. It doesn't double it every time. The math is different. Look at that video, and it's explained in our dual rate video. Mitch.
Hollywood 94 wants to know, does the BSD kit work on the new Commander? No. We are designing a new kit for the Commander and the Double X, as a matter of fact, for different spacers to fit inside the spindle on both of those cars. So
Soon.
That'll be coming soon.
Awesome.
I had another question on here too. It's actually pretty good. Cody said, can you add adjustable links to a stock sway bar for a little bit more stiffness?
I'm going to take that one. So an adjustable link isn't necessarily going to stiffen up a sway bar, but it just depends on what make and model, because like earlier Polaris's use a rubber bushing or a hard plastic bushing in the link, and those flex a lot. And when you do one of our adjustable links, it does not flex. So in that case, you can get a stiffer sway bar, less body roll. In some other units, if you look over here at that Turbo S, okay, these are a rubber bushing inside that link, and that has play, and so link change is going to stiffen the system. If you look at what normally comes on, for instance, this Honda, okay, this is not a rubber bushing, it's actually a ball joint. It's a miniature ball joint in this area, and there's not much movement in that. So if you do a link on this system, it's not going to stiffen up the car or stiffen up the body roll. So it just depends on that. I'm not sure if I answered your question, Mitch, but it depends on which vehicle, if it's going to stiffen it up or not. But no matter what, it makes it adjustable, and that can mean that you can level the car. If it sits crooked all the time, you can lengthen one and not the other, and take the sway bar out of a bind, getting it back to level. So there's a lot of advantages. Plus, they look good. It's the main advantage, right, Steve? Looking good.
Looking good.
Just
That's all I do. I just look good, baby. That's all I do.
What else you got behind you?
We've got a XP1000 non-turbo in here for rebuilds, valving, springs, and then I believe, nope. All right. I was gonna say rear sway. I thought he was doing a rear sway bar, but no rear sway.
Not yet, anyways.
Not yet. Not yet.
Oh, you know what? You were talking earlier. It was about 900s. And all that stuff.
So we had a 900 in, and a lot of people asked, do we still work on older cars? Of course we do. We've got an OG Maverick in the shop. We had a 900 in this morning doing, he just got our valving and springs done a couple months ago, and he was in for a rear sway bar. which I highly recommend you have us do because it is a pain in the butt to put on.
900 bar stuff?
The 900 bar is a pain in the butt. What you got, Dom?
Similarities between the Pro R and the Turbo R.
So, Pro R, Turbo R. It's probably, I was wondering if it's easier to talk about the differences versus similarities, because which one has more or less of the other one? Sorry, I'm just overthinking. Okay, the similarity is the chassis is basically the same. The suspension design is basically the same. Roll cage, geometry, layout of the vehicle, like front rear diffs, things like that are all the same. The main difference is packaging because of the 2000cc four-cylinder in a Pro R versus the standard Polaris turbo engine in the Pro X Turbo. Sorry. What do you got? What do you got, Josh?
You got a live one?
Yeah. Is he there? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Awesome, man.
Hey,
I gotta get over here so I can hear you.
All right, right on.
What's your question, man?
All right, so I blew the front driver corner out of my X3 a couple weeks ago, and I'm in the process of rebuilding everything. I just upgraded to your guys' tie rods with the BSD kit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, what position should I start with for those spacers from the get-go, and then kind of play with it from there? Should I just start in the center, or?
Okay, so that's a really good question. We're talking about driver front corner on an X3. That's actually one right here. And we've got a tie rod in the back with the joint and BSD kit. Normally, if you hadn't ripped the front end off that thing, I would tell you to measure the toe at ride height, jack the car up, hang the tires, measure toe at full droop, stock with the stock tie rod on there. That'll tell you how bad the car is to begin with, which will give you a starting point for our system. But since you got that corner ripped off, you're not going to be able to check it stock, right? So
No.
I would say put them in the middle position. Both spacers on top, the larger spacer on the bottom, tie rod in the middle, and do what I just mentioned. Set the toe at ride height to 0 and measure that tape measure wise to confirm it, jack it up and see what the toe does when it's drooped. If that toe is an inch to 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches change, then you're going to change one spacer and you're going to bring that down 1/2 of a kit.
Okay.
If it's over 1.5 inches of change, say 1.5 to 2.5 inches, then you're going to do both spacers and you're going to drop that tie rod all the way to the bottom. So in that range, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Awesome. Then, so to answer your question one more time, start in the middle, measure it, and then make changes after that.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome, man.
Is there
Thanks for
anything
signing in.
Is there anything else I should be looking at on the shock, though? Because it looks straight to me. I don't see any oil leaking past seals or anything on the shaft, but I'm not the professional in that.
Only thing that I would probably look at is the lower loop down here, Mitch. Sorry. On that front shock, make sure that that lower loop is straight and not bent. Usually, we see a lot of these lowers with bend if they haven't snapped off when they're attached to the arm and you rip the front off. Other than that, there's pretty much nothing else that's going to happen unless it's leaking. So you can probably run it.
All right, right on. Thanks, guys.
Awesome, man. Thank you again. Steve,
All right,
Yeah.
bye.
where you at?
I'm right here. Hi, guys. We're back. So let's go over to the 200 because we got some cool stuff going on the 200. Do we have a question?
Yeah.
Oh,
Very close. Steve, Josh Kane wants to know, would installing a nitrogen adjustment kit on his shocks require him to readjust this preload afterwards?
oh, sorry. The nitrogen. Oh, so our cap kit.
Yes.
No.
No,
No.
no. Just make sure you have a towel on. So if you're doing it on the car, which you can do on the car, if you're gonna do it on the car, just make sure you have a towel under it because usually there's a little bit of oil residue inside the reservoir when you drill it out. You can get oil everywhere. So, but no, you do not have to reset that.
Don't. Ride height. Do
Right
not
height. Yeah, you do not have to reset
right.
right height. No,
Yeah.
you have to reset the nitrogen pressure, 200 psi.
That's 200 psi with
Nitrogen.
200 psi with the car jacked up.
Yep,
Tires hanging. 200 psi.
full droop.
Right. 200.
Let's go over to the 200. This is so far one of my favorite cars because it is so much fun. But we are working on a couple things. I know we talked about it the other day on the live feed, but got some rear shocks on it right now. Got some radius rods. working on. I think we might have found some front shocks, Mitchie. Were those good yesterday, possibly?
Still kind of playing with it, but yeah, we got some options. We're gonna make some cool stuff. I was actually playing with tie rods on this yesterday as well. We're gonna be able to basically produce a tie rod kit for it too. Sway bar links, kind of everything that we talked about.
Do you have
last
any of
time.
that on the front right now?
I don't. No,
Okay.
it's back to stock right now, but just getting like lengths and making sure that everything is somewhat similar to what we already have. So if we can do that and make it work for that, that's sweet. But yeah, like Steve said, rear shocks on it, just kind of playing and test fitting some stuff. Our goal is to have basically a full shock package for the 200s for the kids to go race. I've already actually had a couple people mention that the 200s buck and bounce a lot. So it'll be kind of cool for me to be able to like tune something in for them to go have fun in too. So
Mitch, Don's got a question.
for moi.
Oh, bring it in.
close to you.
Hi.
Mitch, when is the Turbo S steering tie rods coming?
Tie rods for Turbo. We are filming the install video next week. After that video is done, they will be put on the website along with every other tie rod. So,
Bam!
There it is,
Yep.
dropping
How about
something
that?
finally.
Yep.
Been trying to drop products for months.
Yep,
Been a dry spell.
it has been.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Buy my phone.
You got any other questions, Mitchie?
very excited for that. That's going to cover pretty much every make and model of vehicle for tie rod kits, and I know we've been working hard at cycling everything, making sure that get you guys in the right area, just like our BSD kit for the Can-Am would be, but more adjustable and help fix all the bump steer in the Polaris and Kawasaki and every other model. So
Keep another thing in mind as you're talking about tie rods. That one of the reasons why our tie rod kits have taken so long to come out, you guys, is that we have to do every make, every model. We have to cycle every single one so that when you buy a tie rod kit from us, it's going to have BSD pin kit as well, standard. So we've done all the cycling work for you to give you a starting point to fix a lot of the bump steer that are in factory UTVs. We had to do that research on every single model. So we've got months and months and months, if not up to a year, in the tie rod systems that are going to be dropping pretty quick.
multiple
Plus-
models of the same model.
Multiple, right? And so, for instance, if you're checking a Turbo S, we would check 3, 4, 5 Turbo S's just to see if they vary like a Can-Am does in bump steer, and give you an idea of the highs and the lows that they could be and where a starting point is. Plus, we developed our own inner joints that thread into the factory racks. So with our tie rod kits, not only are you going to have BSD pin kits available, or at least standard issue with our tie rods, but you're also going to have an inner joint that's much bigger, stronger than the factory ones, and still threads directly into the rack. That's all been developed too, and it's all big. We're really excited about it because burly, beefy, strong. You're not going to break any of those parts. You're just going to break something else.
Yeah.
Not the tie rod, for sure.
We also
It's
had to
worth it.
double the tie rods because you basically put a tie rod as the rear link for the Pro R, so we had to make double the amount.
Yeah, these
Just,
links are so long that it eats into our tie rod inventory. But it's part of the deal.
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, well, you guys got any more questions, or we about wrapped up?
There
Here's
was
your last chance. Ask away. We're going to get out of here and go back to work.
Steve.
Mitch.
How often do shock mount bushings go bad? Can-Am X3 RS Smart Shocks have a nasty knocking noise and have isolated it to the lower shock bushing on driver's side.
Next to never.
I'd say never, and the bushing that's down there is the sealed one. So I would say they crack. I see them crack a lot, so maybe it cracked and it is causing a little bit, but I would say, yeah, close to never.
We see loose hardware and an oblong lower shock mount more than we've ever seen.
Yeah, I would say
Shock
I can't say. I see them break all the time, guys, and that just happens from putting them in crooked and they crack and then they chip. But I've only seen an A-arm get wallowed out and that makes the bolt kind of go, and then it's loose and it kind of clunks around. But as far as the bushing going bad, I'd say next to never.
Yeah. More questions?
Brandon wants to know any word on computer tuning ETA for the Smart Shocks.
Yeah. So we've actually been doing testing on that, and the more that we test, the more that we make changes. A lot of the changes that we've been making are in simpler but faster computer systems that are part of the Bluetooth process. So we just keep pushing it out farther and farther because we keep improving it before we release it. It's still going to be about 6 or 7 months. So if you want to do something between now and then, go for it. But it'll be that long at least.
Let's see. Ramp Rat wants to know, how often should I change my shock therapy socks?
I mean, we're talking you can wear them inside out, so that's 2 days. I mean, at least every 2 days.
Well, like the ones you're wearing, exactly what you're
Is that
saying?
what you're saying right there?
Yeah, boom. Hot. So Steve, I know you probably change them twice a day, but you don't do it.
I've got at least 10 pairs in the truck, not including this. I got a couple pairs of shorts, another pair of shoes, and 3 pairs of three shirts in there. So I got a full wardrobe in my truck at all times.
Rule of thumb, once a day.
I sweat a lot, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What else you guys got? More questions?
Jason Reddish says, shout out, love your product, installed the toe link support and front limit straps. So far as race rack will be here tomorrow, and he's going to do the springs in Oklahoma.
Badass. Badass.
Speaking of
Jason,
Oklahoma,
thank you very much, and that is an excellent segue to reminding you guys.
Mid-America, guys, if you want us to go out there, please call into the shop. Let us know that you guys are going to do appointments out there. We are booking right now for that show. We need to make sure we got appointments booked up to make sure we're going to go out there and have the work trailer. We are going out there regardless, correct?
We're going out there regardless.
It's
But
just
whether
whether
we're bringing the work semi to do work for you guys is up to how many appointments we get in advance. So get on the horn and get that done. Otherwise, we're going to cancel the work part of it and just have the fun part of it.
That brings up a question.
So someone did have a question for me this morning about that actually. So because we have, if you book in the month of April, you get 10% off valving. Does that count for a show in Oklahoma?
It does not. Here's
Okay.
the reason for that.
That was a question I had this morning.
It just costs us a ton more money to go. The overhead is really high, and we don't raise the price for doing the work in some other location, as maybe we should because our costs are way up. So we just can't absorb the extra 10% on that. So I would say no.
Another guy asked, will you guys be working on cars at UTV Takeover in Sam Hollow?
Our goal is yes, but again, that we're going to test that with the amount of appointments we get in advance. So call a shop and get booked, whether we're going to be there or not. It might determine whether we go and do the work. Any more questions?
Mr. Mitch.
Sorry. Let's see. On a Can-Am X3, will a 5.2 wheel feel noticeably better than a 4.3?
Drastically, yes.
Trying to replace some wheels that were sent to me with a wrong offset, and I hate the feedback.
Yes, a 4.3 wheel is horrible on an X3. A 5.3 is better. A 5.1 or 4.1 are even better than that. And it is the same difference from a 4.3 to a 5.2 as it is a 5.2 to a 4.1. Giant change.
A Polaris Ace.
Yes.
Ooh.
Do we spring it?
Yes. We have spring kits for Aces, which require a preload collar and adapter for the front to allow you to adjust it, and we have those kits.
Yep.
Yes, we do.
Definitely give us all the weights accurately because it's a single spring kit in the rear of that, and we want to make sure the rates are exact and not too stiff.
So also with that, Ranger stuff and a couple other things are going to be released here very, very soon as well.
Spring kits with adapters and adjustability for stock OEM shocks on utility UTVs coming to a website near you soon.
And on that
note,
Steve,
if you would
take that.
like to visit a website near you, it is www.shocktherapyusa.com. Or, guys, if you have any questions, please call in 623-217-4959. Clear? Oh, I had to say fuck so bad. Dude, you're not shaky at all. You're just